appears we're streaming, hopefully, in the right place now. As I was saying, we are... Ooh, machine's locked up. Oh, start recording. Just seem to be having trouble with all the processes. So we'll just check that that's working. Okay. Well, hopefully, if I'm stuttery, do tell me in the Discord comments, or if I go blank. Seems to be freezing up. I'm having stability problems. Oh well, we'll power through. Okay, so one of the challenges is that when we are trying to do game development, we're going to learn from experience. So one of the things you have to do is prepare your environment for learning. Okay, so hopefully that audio is... Oh, no sound. Okay, I should have the audio coming through. The road suggested it's got audio. Maybe it'll pick up in just a sec. Discord might not have sound. Discord got sound? Discord's got sound? Okay. Well, we'll see how that goes. Hopefully the sound will come through in the YouTube. So one of the things you do is you set yourself up to learn, right? So when we're doing normal teaching, one of the things we do is look at, can we do some sort of pre-test? Can we work out what sort of...
Excuse me, Simon.
Yep.
You are muted on Discord, it seems.
Oh, I'm muted.
Sorry to interrupt your lecture.
No, that's all good. Thank you. I'm muted on Discord, it seems. Okay. So let's mute and let's unmute. And let's try and change the audio. Okay, can you hear me now on Discord?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Whew, okay.
Thank you.
No. Thank you. Thank you for jumping in and saying something. It's very nice.
Gotta do it.
So one of the things we're doing is we're preparing to learn. So one of the first things you do is you try and think about what you currently know. Now, at Pro School, what we do is we try and do like pre-tests where we test the students before we start teaching. We then teach them something and then test them at the end. Right? So the idea is we're trying to work out how much they've learned. Now, when you're setting yourself up for learning, because like once you leave, this is you're coming into your last year. Once you leave, you won't have a teacher that's telling you what to do. You have to set all this up yourself. So you have to think, okay, I'm going to set myself up to learn. I need to work out what I currently know. What are my current set of skills? And I need to start thinking about what is the gap between what I currently know and where I want to get to. Right? So, and then set up my environment to support me to reach that goal. So instead of that being me setting up that environment to take you through that path, that becomes you. So the first thing we do is we start collecting data. We collect notes, we collect insights as we learn things, we document what our current state is, so you kind of work out, what are the skills that I have. Often, if you've written a CV recently, that is one way of sort of documenting skills, but you can actually have a kind of, personal CV, which isn't the CV you hand out for a job. It's the CV of what skills you've acquired and what sort of where you are, and then you can start thinking, okay, well, this is what I can do. Where do I want to get to? And then so what we're doing is we're also looking at, once we've learned something, we're also going to have to work out how to analyze our experience, so that's reflection, and then how we change behavior. Because learning isn't just about stuffing things inside your head. Learning is about the changes that you make along the way, right? So if you don't show in your behavior the change in your learning, then we don't even know if you've actually learned anything. So what do we do before we start? First, we would pretest. You start looking at, do you know the words? Do you know the lexicon? So if you want to learn something, go and find some references, some papers. You start reading about it. You start looking on websites about it. And when you hit words you don't know, you go, right, okay, great. These are words that I don't understand, so I'm going to have to understand the language that these people use so that I can then build up the knowledge about what I'm doing. Look at what resources you have, what is current, right? So when we look at the resources we have and what we've been doing, is your knowledge up to date? Are your resources up to date? Is there a way of verifying those, right? So are these things that you can check to see, yep, no, the things I thought were true are still true? Can you work out who you should trust in the area? So when you're thinking about learning something, you need to go and choose where you learn from, right? So now on the internet, there are far, far, far too many people who will teach you terrible, terrible ways of doing things, right? It's one of the things I actually started to dislike about Unity, is that Unity started to get enough tutorials from people who were self-taught, didn't really know what they're doing, and wrote tutorials to get YouTube clicks, and would give terrible advice about how to program in Unity. And a whole bunch of people were watching them and following that advice. And it was kind of, oh my God, what? Like, this is awful. But that's the thing. You've got to work out who you can trust. And you have already done part of that job of going to a university saying, well, hey, if the government has spent a whole bunch of money employing these people and have vetted them and tried to make sure they know what they're talking about, then hopefully that's a good sign. And so who do you trust, and what resources do you have? And university, for Norwegians, you've got this whole state education thing that you're able to participate in. When you are going out and learning things and collecting data, one of the things we talk about in adult learning is this intentional experiences. Now, this is the change where you go from doing an action because, it's just fun, or it's just whatever you do. It's what you do. It's what you were told to do. It was the next on the scroll, right? And we moved from that to having intentional experiences. And so reading with intent is sorry, I've got kids. Reading with intent is the idea that you are reading material not just to have fun, but you're reading specifically to learn something from that text. Acting with intent is that you think, okay, I'm going to make this thing, I'm going to make this game, I'm going to do this game jam, and these are the things that I am going to extract from that experience. Right? So you are intentionally doing something. And that extends to kind of a scientific approach of hypothesis testing, where what we're doing is we're saying, okay, can I measure something? Can I come up with an idea? If I measure the world, I model to work out how it works. I then make a hypothesis about what can change what I've measured. And then I make that change and I evaluate that change against that original measure, right? But you don't know if you've been successful unless you knew what the original was, right? So this is why when we start thinking about, okay, was a learning activity useful for you? Well, if you knew, if you had worked out what you didn't know, and you then find out what you do know, and you compare the two and say, yes, I learned this and this and this and this and this, right? What am I taking from this experience? And it's this idea of being consciously experimenting and consciously thinking about why you are performing actions. One of the things that I think is terrible at universities is that we've often taken away student agency in your learning. So instead of you learning because you are taking a conscious desire to learn something, you're doing it because you've been told to. And you don't have this why. You don't do the, I know exactly why I am making this game, or I am writing this essay, or I understand what I am going to get from this, right? Rather, it's just the, oh, there's grades. I need to get the grades to get the degree. And once I get a degree, I'll get a job. And then it'll be great. Right, so, but you're not conscious of the design of that particular learning activity. And this comes down to what we call the difference between exploration and exploitation. So exploiting is where we use what we currently know to create an output. So this is where, say that you already know C Sharp, and you've in a group with working in Godot, and you just go, I don't really want to learn Godot script, so I'm just going to use what I already know. I'll just use, I'll just turn that, nope, I can't turn that on. I can turn that on, but I have to change the filters. Just a sec, I noticed that I was in front of the words, and now I'm not. There we go, that's behind the words. So exploiting what you know rather than exploiting what you currently know versus exploring new things. When you're in a company, you need to be really explicit about this, because exploring, learning, is investing in your company and investing in learning new things. And exploitation is stuff that you can charge for contracts, because that's you using what you currently know to perform something outside of the work, right? So I think these are the different ways of thinking about the activities. Most of university work is exploration, because we're trying to teach you to learn. Most of actual work is exploitation, where you're doing things you already know how to do, and so the amount you spend doing research and development R&D is much, much lower. And knowing the difference for scoping and time is really critical. However, you can't just spend all your time just doing exploration in a job, because if you don't actually make products, then your company's going to go fast. Okay, so one of the other concepts that I want you to think about and think about early. Now, I'm talking about reflecting on a project, and then surely reflection happens at the end. It's kind of like if you set yourself up early now, and you start recording data, and you start thinking, what is my base of that situation? How do I understand the intentional process of me extracting as much value from this experience as possible? Hopefully, then you'll get more out of it by the end, because you'll have written notes along the way, you'll have thought about what you're doing. Now, this concept of technical debt, for this project, I expect you to be in a lot of technical debt at the end of this project, right? Because what happens is early in the project, you're often kind of thinking about the structure, you're trying to put things together, you're doing your inheritance, you're building classes that reuse things, and I'm going to have 5 of these, so this needs to be in a I'm going to be able to inherit from here, and I'm going to set up the structure, and I'm going to do these things in an interesting way, and I'm going to make it, it's going to do it right. So you do things in the way they should be. However, as you get closer to a deadline, often what people do is they're under too much time pressure, and so it's not that they get lazy, it's that they have to push the clean way of doing things, the background, and just get it done. Now, this is what builds what's called technical debt. It's any time that you're doing development, and you know that what you're doing isn't the best way of doing something, but you're borrowing time from the future and saying, basically, I'll tidy that later. So you can kind of think of this as being a bit like when your parents are doing up, you grab your stuff and you tidy it to a cupboard, right? You know you're going to have to go through it later, right? So you've got time debt that, you're going to have to sort that stuff out later, but I'm just going to hide it now. It's actually hiding. So it's like tidying and hiding put together. So hiding is that sudden tidying up, but that's like technical debt. And if you do that with your code, you build up technical debt, right? And you're pushing them to later. Now, so should I use my should I use my know and slow process, or learn the correct way of doing X? If you think the learning is going to take longer, then often people will just stick with the process they know. And in fact, we know that if you put people under time pressure and you grade them, then they're more likely to use what they currently know to get the job done than to try and learn something new. So the way to learn something new, we create actually take off some of those time pressures, take off some of that burden of getting to a solution quickly, and take away incentives and let them explore without those harsh penalties. So actually you think, well, hey, that sounds like the opposite of what we do at university, where we give you lots of assignments, we grade you all the time. And yeah, unfortunately, there is an unfortunate mismatch. But this idea of technical debt, you'll see come up in reviews of game projects, right? And reviews is that like people will say that they rush on things, they push on things to version 2, they didn't do things the way they should have done. But often that's because they ran out of time and they were stressed. So, but if your goal is to learn, right? If learning is your goal, then you might need to, and you talk with me about this, sacrifice features in your game so that you learn more. Because I want you to learn, right? So if you can show me that you sacrifice features for learning, and so you've been exploring rather than exploiting, I'm good with that. Right? Now, other vectors might not be, they might be growing the product more, and so they want you to get it done. I'm happy to negotiate with you as group that balance. Right? So technical bits, okay. Okay, so we've got this idea of setting up an environment, thinking about what I know and currently don't know, and taking notes. Well, one of the things we do, and they do actually do in the military, is they call it a during action review. And so you have after action reviews and during action reviews. During action reviews are where you set a point where you check in on how things are going. Now, these of course have come into the software industry through Scrum and Agile. And the idea of a daily stand up in Scrum is this checkpoint in your process. And although it is mainly in Scrum, designed so that you can link what you're doing with everyone else in the team, right? So you know, hey, where are we in the team? What is everyone else doing? Can I help you with your tech challenges? It also is a really good way of marking down your own progress as you notice things that are going well by saying, no, plus, what went well, minus, what went badly, delta, what should change. Right? So a very, very quick stand-up meeting, and it's checking for yourself also when you're learning. If there is something that needs to change, you need to work out what is missing. Is it something you don't know, which means you're going to need to learn? Is it a resource that you don't have or you need to acquire? And then you're going to have to negotiate a change, either a change in the amount of resource you're allocated to do a task, or a change in the task itself. Right? If there's a resource limit that you don't have the resources either in time or people or assets or whatever the resources, you just don't have enough of it to complete the task. Or is it a dilemma? If it's a dilemma, then you're going to have to formulate an issue and pick a path. When you have this sort of, something isn't working here, we need to make a change, but we don't know which direction to go in. We actually sometimes do what's called a depth jam. So this is like a game jam, but what you do is you take the weekend and you say, right, we're going to spend the weekend and we're going to try and implement this feature in explicitly the ways that teach us whether or not it's going to be successful. Right? Because if we can make it far enough in that weekend to get to the point where, no, we think this is going to work, it's going to be fun, it's going to be in the game, it's going to be good, then you've made a decision, you can move forward down the, we're going to include the game, and move forward. Or you get to the point where you can make a decision, no, wow, okay, that was just not fun, so we're going to cut it from the game, we don't know if it's going to work, or we know it's not going to work, and we take that path, right? So when you come up with something needs to change, then you can try and work out, well, what kind of thing is it? Is it I need to go find out something, is I need to negotiate something, or I need to create an experiment to gather enough information to choose from one or other path. Now, in the game development industry, one of the things that you'll find all of this kind of collecting information is in the idea of a post-mortem. Right? So the idea of a post-mortem is that it's a very specific form of evaluation, and game developer, used to be called game developer, keyword post-mortem shows you hundreds of post-mortems. Now this is the way the game industry reviews itself, right? So rather than saying, hey, academics, we're special, we do things in equal ways. No, I don't. Let's look at the industry, let's work out what best practices in industry and look at what they do. So if you go to game developer and what are my experiences with Scrum and game? That's a long question, so I'll get back to you. So if you go to that link, and most of you should be able to find that I've worked commercially with Scrum and game development, and some of my experiences are very dependent on the people you're with. But yes, that's a long discussion. And so they communicate with other people. So what we find is that there are generally problems in groups. Right? Because people get stressed, people drop out, people lie. If you know that your objective is to learn, then when you have conflict, you use that as an opportunity to learn about conflict management. Right? So rather than going down the route of, this is going to be too hard, you actively think, okay, I know Simon is going to grade us on what we learn. I've got a problem here. Let's learn about conflict management. Yeah, so it's a slightly different way of doing things. So if you have the game developer website and go to this, you'll see that they have, and how many you list here? I think at one stage I saw they have about 2,000 post-mortem stock games, and so you can go and leave them games. So you can look at and try to find games that you know, games you like, and think, okay, can I find a post-mortem of a game that I play, I've understood, I've seen some of the good and bad of it, and you can go in. So there are older ones, but there are also they do have a lot. Where is the list? Post-mortem. Why is it stopping? Because they have thousands of these. Okay, maybe if I just do a search for post-mortem, you can see. Here we go. So this will give you the list, and you've got a range of types of games, authors who you're wanting to read, and so hopefully you can find a class post-mortem that's update. So your post-mortem is certainly not like format of having 5 good 5 bad. So, and these are the game developers are talking about describing what the game was, what functions were, we're going to, and then they'll go through an actual picture, but it will be so they're not for the standard format of 5 good 5 bad, but they've kind of mixed the design process with how is going to work, and so it's frustrating in nonsensical programs so they've combined them. So the idea of post-mortem is go find the ways that people are reviewing it with us. Now, the idea is that so here are 10. Some of them are more of the older ones because these are ones that I have written in the past because they were games that I can play. But if we have a look at any of these, we can jump in and you can jump in and that has the Diablo 2 link. And this will follow the older one for the standard good. So like Diablo 2 is still Diablo, right? So it was a good game. And in 2, there's the development process. They felt that was good. Blizzard. The character skill tree worked well. The quality assurance helped, and simultaneous worldwide release was good. Okay. Now they go into the 5 things that didn't go well. So we're very proud that the company launched just after it battling with the largest again, despite the original success we knew. So that's the the challenges of being so for the LG shipped. We get noticing some feedback from customers about the resolution of the graphics of the game, frequently labelled outdated or pixelated. The technology choices made we made eclipsed the recognition of the fantastic jobs the artist did. People love the game graphics, and the game was like incredibly animation. So they made some choices about the graphics and we could like those, and so the tools went great and save game methodology. So as much as we tried to make a frustration for a game, we seem to have failed some people with our save game scheme. So they go through so they talk about some of the good stuff, some of the bad stuff, and give an overall review. Now, also, it's kind of interesting to see number of years, 3 years, full-time developers, 40 developers over 3 years, and that was back in 2000, right? So this is an insight into how some of those games were made, how many people were involved in making them. Right? So this is a useful way of going and reflecting on how the industry reflects on its development. Now, for when you have a look at the no, I actually have no development. Right. You see that I've got in the here we go. We have under documentation. We have that game design and the game testing. Now, what? So what I'll add is an example of some of the reflections students have written. Because if we have a look at the submission, what I'm wanting you to do at the end is that we have this reflection process, which I want to be is maximum a 30-year grade. Now, I don't go through this weighting value, and I shall just turn off that so you can see me. So this is this min default max weighted rubric system. Do other courses use this? I don't know if anybody else at NTNU is using this system. I think Mariusz might have adopted it. right, which is you playing the game. A code video where you talk me through the interesting parts of your code. Now, the reason why I want this is because the for game engines, often so Unity, Unreal, and Godot, if you are 10, 10, 30, 30, right? So the idea is that you get to push the marking system towards the things you think are more interesting or that you've done well at. Okay, so this gives you some flexibility to say, instead of just being the default, do everything middlingly well, you can spend more time on some parts. Now, with the good code and bad code, what I want your good code to be is a link to the discussion of the code you consider good, right? So this is within the individual report that you write. And I want a link and discussion of the code you consider bad, right? And a personal reflection of the key concepts you've learned in the course and reflecting on your learning. With this good and bad code. So good code is code where your thought processes and the code you've written align with what a person who's coming to read your code would think that your code should do, right? So good code is, I come in here, I look at the code, and, hey, wow, I know exactly what it does. It's very clear that it works, and it's well written and understandable. That's, for me, good code. It's not that it's super efficient, because often super efficient code isn't good code, it's efficient code. Different things. Bad code could be, you could argue that sometimes efficient code can be bad code. Bad code's usually that technical debt stuff I was talking about, things that you rushed, things you did badly. Now, I will also accept you reflecting on bad code by talking about code that was in one of your commits that was bad code and that you've since refactored to become good code. You don't have to talk about just code that you've submitted at the end. You can talk about the code as you developed it. So the idea here is that for the game, there's a bit on the gameplay video, right? And then and the game itself, and the rest is actually on the process. And when we look at code, I also have this whole large rubric where the number